Hello, everybody, and welcome back to 50 Shades of Tay. I'm Taylor Gonzalez, and there's a brand new horror short called Joker's Wild that just came out a week ago. And today I am very privileged to have the writer and director, Aaron Bennett, with me. Aaron, how are you doing today?
I'm doing really well, Taylor. Thanks for having me on your podcast.
Oh, well, thank you for being here, and congratulations on this past week. Just everyone is loving this short and just glowing reviews everywhere. How does it feel to have it out in the world now and to be getting all this positive feedback?
It feels pretty good. Obviously not used to uh, the the what is it now 2.2% of hate. It's You can never please everybody. I think Abraham Lincoln said that on his blog, and also everything on the internet is true. But the one thing that I'm trying to remember is it's only been out for 7 days, and that most of the people really enjoy it, and they seem to like know the importance of what we were trying to do is just to convey that David could absolutely do this. He could be a phenomenal Joker, and he would be the Joker that people that were really into comics would enjoy. And that was kind of the entire point of it. Uh, and initially, I found his article on his thread. It popped up into my feed on Instagram that he uh, was asked during an interview whether or not he would play the Joker, or that what his favorite character was. And I think at the same time, Terrifier 3 had just become the number one movie in France, and I think that's what steered that conversation into you guys are on top of Joker too. Like, is that a weird feeling? And and then he talked about Joker and how much he loved the character. And so I pitched to his makeup artist from The Mean One, Tatiana Bouchel, uh, that maybe we could get together and actually put him in makeup, not just face paint. That conventionally, except for maybe Jack Nicholson, he had largely obscured rictus grin. That maybe we could do something, and then afterwards I was kind of like, well, maybe we could do like a little script, something inspired by events from some of the other massive catalog of stories that are available, and then try and put our own spin on it to where people just didn't feel like they were watching play by play, current events or the weather or anything like that. Like, maybe we could give a little twist to it. And more or less everybody was surprised. uh Everybody kind of knows Jason Todd. He doesn't survive a death in the family, and how impactful that was to kids. It's 1988, and they had a 1-900 number where people would call in for 50 cents or whatever and vote whether or not he died, and which is really sick in retrospect. Like, you're asking comic fans and children to like sneak a phone call in on their rotary phone, and spend mom and dad's money so you can decide whether or not a comic book hero should die. But it was only 200 votes, I think, separated the live or die at Jason Todd,
Oh.
life or death, I mean, and which is wild. Um, but I think even then in 1988, people were ready to see something dark, and so I kind of felt very confident that we could do something like that. I think the live action movies stop way short. I think they get up to that point, and then I think IP holders and rights holders are so terrified of owning the death of a character and just living on it that they don't embrace that like catastrophe. I think that's kind of what made Endgame so spectacular, was seeing Robert Downey Jr., seeing Iron Man die. Like, I mean, there were people in the theater next to me that were crying, like
Yeah.
adults that were so touched by that moment, and it was so impactful, and it seemed like there was this very real effect that
Mm.
was going to be the outcome of it would be, ripples forever. And I mean, even the snap,
Yeah.
even that kind of thing. Like we're not used to that as comic book fans, of having something that's just like overarching and final. And then they can't help themselves but walk it back. Like,
Yeah.
hey, he's not really dead.
Oh man. Well, I think that the title you guys came up with of Joker's Wild is perfect because it's just two words. It's simple. It conveys the message of what you're about to watch. How did you guys come up with that title specifically?
Yeah, the lack of apostrophe I think is appalling to people. But in cards, it's just something the dealer declares, that all the jokers are wild. It's not possessive. So every now and then I get somebody that's just like, actually, it's just like, okay, neither of us are wrong. It can be both, but since I wrote it, I'm going to go ahead and say there's no apostrophe. It was just, it, I'm just right now, my head's just kind of swimming with all the things that people are deciding to be angry about.
Oh my gosh.
Like, so, but, but yeah, like I, obviously his behavior and the play on words, and the play on grammar, I guess, I thought was fun. And I have versions of the script that have it with an apostrophe, and I thought, well, it'd be kind of fun if it didn't. And it wasn't possessive. Like it just means that, all jokers are wild. And I thought that could be fun for people. But it's fun for literary geeks. And like, you know, last I checked, like it is literature. like, like, sorry about the blur thing,
Oh,
but
no, it's all good.
my house is a mess.
Oh
So
my gosh.
I haven't been home in like a week.
Oh my gosh. Well, so you started this whole process by reaching out through the makeup artist for the mean one. So was
Yeah.
this how you and David very first met?
Yeah, I met him on the day,
Oh wow.
when he was going into wardrobe and makeup. I talked to him through text and a couple of emails so I could get his sizes. But yeah, not the conventional way that you're supposed to do it, where you meet your actor and you
Mhm.
have reads and you talk about the character at length. I mean, I'm essentially talking to. I mean, it just seemed like a waste of his time in some respects because the man is an encyclopedia of that character and has been studying it since he was, well, it's 35 years. There's nothing that I can do to educate him on, well, would Joker wouldn't do this. And I mean, he could just be like, actually, in true fashion to any real uh, comic geek. I mean, that's what we both are. I think like we respect the material, so it's like it's hallowed. This is like true storytelling. So like you have the map open, like you don't want to veer far away from it, and so he's so much wanted a comic accurate uh, Joker, and so did I, and it's the look. If you go to the pains in uh and maybe you could grab a few and throw them in just so people can see reference uh, photos and stuff, even from just the crowbar scene, which was horrific to me as a kid to see. Left swing, right swing, left swing. It's unblinking. The smile is rictus. It does not move, and he's just gleeful as he's beating this hero to death, and it was shocking. So I'd never, not there obviously is not the first character to be beaten. That's like kind of the whole point of action comics and things like that, in action within comics. But that was just brutal, and it was the hooked end of it, and you couldn't see the character, which left your imagination to understand what was probably happening. And then when they cut to it, there's a big, they cut to the next panel, there's a bunch of blood under him, and so I mean it's ghastly.
Yeah.
And I thought, you know, there's no limitations to the brutality that that the Joker has. I think the only limitations were set is that people have decided that what can happen with the Joker has to have a limit.
Mm.
And uh, I really just don't believe that to be true. I think the only limitations he places on himself is just how much fun he's willing to have and hang out in order to hang out with Batman and to torment Batman and to try and just see like if his one rule is really as adamant, like where's his point? At what point does he break and join me on my side of the fence? Or is this truly just, two wild dogs on either side of a chain link fence barking at each other for 30 years, or in this case, like 70.
Oh
It's
my
just like,
gosh.
um, and that number's probably not even wrong and people will yell, but or not even right. I just can't win. Yeah, like,
Oh
I
man, I
wanted to
can't even
do
imagine.
something. I wanted to do something like new, and I like to be surprised when I go to the movies. Uh, I like to have a some sort of twist. It's
Mhm.
got to be some sort of twist. I love fan service. I love Easter eggs. Deadpool 2 or Wolverine and Deadpool was so much fun for fan service. Uh, just everything you could freeze a frame and find treasure, and it was great. And the I wanted to give some of that at the same time. I've I've got 8 hours to shoot, and it's not making an excuse. It's a literal fact.
Right.
I got a guy in makeup for 4 hours. I was able to get Joel out of makeup in about an hour and a half,
Oh,
maybe a little less, wardrobe and makeup, and then we just took him upstairs and started shooting.
mhm.
Started shooting as many inserts, establishing wide shots, everything we could. We pre-lit the night before, which bought us one entire day of shooting, and our D rig was the following night. And Annie and Tyler, Chris, and myself, we just wanted to buy the entire day because we knew if we only have David for a day, like how much can we capitalize on that? And I think our initial setup count was 20, 26 or 28. If Chris Bond was here, he would know. And I think we scrapped one setup. There was one angle, maybe two that we didn't get, but we were able to get an hour and 40 minutes of usable footage, which isn't bad. My first short didn't have the FX, uh, and I think I got like an hour and 20 with the same thing. And that was with a kid who was limited in his availability. So yeah, it was.
So oh, go ahead.
Sorry, I'm just sucking all the air out of the room.
No, no, no.
Like,
This
I
is
know
like
you have
so.
like nine more questions.
No, this is so
But
fascinating for me to hear, like all the different time restraints you had, and just like how creative you have to get, like you said, like pre-lighting everything, and just which shots you had to cut and everything. It's fascinating to hear about. I did have Joel LeBlanc, who plays your Jason Todd, on my
yeah,
channel, and something that I asked him that I'm very curious to get your answer on as well is what was your reaction when you did see David in the full makeup and the full costume for the first time?
yeah, I was pretty excited. So first we put him in wardrobe just because I knew he was going to have so much stuff on him, and I didn't want anything that was going to be like pullover, possibly like a t-shirt or something like that undershirt. And like number one, that guy is an incredibly sweet man. He's just a an absolute, like, just the biggest heart, and a lot of fun. I've been on film sets enough to know that's not how it always is. And there's ego here and there, but it was like I was rolling the dice, not being a personal friend or an acquaintance of David's, as to whether or not it's either going to be 12 hours of insufferable, snobbery, or he's going to be the nicest guy in the world. And my friend Jonas Barnes, it said, like, look, no, he is absolutely the nicest man you will ever meet. Like, people love David because of how gracious he is, and it couldn't have been more true. They like, uh, so he was just game for everything. It's like, I've got wardrobe. It's very unconventional. I know we're going for a comic accurate, in the face that had been decided and agreed upon by all three of us, Tatiana and David and myself. I wanted one that was a little more extreme on like cheekbones, and then they made really great points as far as the structure of the chin and cheekbones and the nose. David was particular about the nose shape, and then I looked through Death in the Family, and he's right. Uh, but it that was our mission, and I know the number one criticism, there are a lot of people online. The number one criticism is like, oh, the face. It can't, he has a very expressive face. We can see his face, and he would do just fine. It's like, yeah, but that's live action Joker, and they are two different things. They you've got guys who essentially put no prosthesis on their face whatsoever and just throw a little makeup on, and to me that is very dissatisfying unless you're getting someone with an incredibly angular face, like um, I mean, very characteristic jawline and nose and cheekbones and stuff of like Quentin Tarantino. He has a unique facial structure that would be good for that comic book look. Like he's animated, and that's not like some fanboy like, oh, I just want to be like Quentin Tarantino. No, it's like I think that the way that people's faces are constructed is very interesting visually. And I think that if you go and get some conventionally beautiful man and then throw a little bit of white makeup on his face, you're not going to impress me as a comic book fan uh, into believing that this is the Joker. I don't know. It's two schools of thought. Like you're either trying to sell towards your feminine demographic by having, this gorgeous man, with a little bit of white makeup, or you're trying to go towards like hardcore nerdcore fan and please us. And you got to try and find that happy medium in order to maximize the studio dollar, and which is obviously their point to make. It's a business, and those are intellectual properties. And um, but to answer your question, I'm sorry. Uh, the first time I saw David, it was epic because the kit uh, that we had that she had to kind of alter and make it work as best she could. Like I owe her Tatiana a tremendous amount of gratitude, but also I owe her like way more time. Like if we ever had another chance to do this, I would have just like I spent everything I had on it, and I didn't crowd fund, and I don't know how to do any of that garbage. So I just saved up, and and it came down to the wire, and I really needed a couple things, and all the bulk of the budget went to her and her team, Pedro Rios, Cassie White, and Tatiana Bluchel. So like those three were responsible for just a tremendous amount of work. I mean, people can say whatever they want. They can criticize however they want. They either don't know the comics or they don't know the process that it takes to put makeup on someone. You may have seen like a time lapse footage and some BTS on a DVD somewhere or a Blu-ray somewhere, but like they really just don't know that sometimes actors pre-call for 4, 5, 6, 10 hours to get in this stuff, and they do it every single day for like 3 months to do a Marvel movie. It's insane, and that is a tremendous amount of work, and that's just makeup. And when that's done, they have to shift over and do hair, and depending on the costume, like Jim Carrey and the Grinch, like that's another however many hours to get that all perfect because those two departments are union. They can't cross paths. Um, and nor should they. It's very distinct. People just think one person just runs in there and throws something at an actor and then kicks him out the trailer. So it's not it. It is a tremendous amount of work. It's very uncomfortable. They have to crouch over people. They try and get them up in a chair. It's uncomfortable for the actor. Like David, though, he's such a professional, and he's so incredibly kind and gracious with his time that he's just, you give him some Fresca and put him in a chair, and He's he's just the happiest guy.
Oh,
It was I wish I could have been downstairs to chat with him more, but honestly, I think I said hi to him, um, got him into wardrobe, explained the situation that I was trying to do with wardrobe and why. And he immediately was like, yeah, late 80s, perfect, got it. And Aaron Camacho was the wardrobe designer. He's an actual fashion designer, which is kind of, there is a difference. Wardrobe and fashion. Uh, I don't want to mess this up because it's an entire industry for crying out loud. But yeah, the the man creates like Aaron Camacho creates like steampunk and post nuclear war like attire, like Mad Max type stuff. And my key grip, Annie Williams, put me onto Aaron when our wardrobe person was unable to come. And so what essentially 7 hours before we started shooting, didn't have any clothes. Could have been an entirely different movie, more of a porno, really. The the other option was to just have David bring his purple suit, but it wouldn't have matched with everything else that I had thematically
right.
with the timeline. And also, it's hard for me to believe that since the 50s, this man's been wearing the same purple suit, and in Death in the Family, he's wearing like 7 or 8 costumes, like including that of a sheik, because he's representing the UN. Like I ran at the UN as a diplomat for immunity purposes. So it's like he does dress up. People are just like, yeah, actually, he only ever wears the purple costume. Mm. And it's like, no, it's wrong. He doesn't. He doesn't. And in every movie, he's wore something different. And it's just our take. And Aaron opens up this big treasure chest and he's just like, okay, I got a few things. And Aaron's few things, like this is like all wardrobe people, all fashion designers, like yeah, their few things are like 50 things. And so now I'm just like I'm greedy. I've got all these options and I'm like choosing gloves that are different colors. And I'm just like, this is amazing. And he even makes the little glove gauntlet thing. It's like it has zippers, non-purposeful zippers for adornment. And I was so excited because I was like, my interpretation, like, this is dangerous, but like the Joker doesn't strike me as someone that runs into a TJ Maxx and just kicks open the door and starts buying color coordinated apparel. To me, like this is a guy that's more obsessed with torturing one single individual ultimately, but all the people leading up to Batman. I'm like, I just don't think that he puts a tremendous amount of thought into his daily wardrobe. I imagine in my mind that the Joker is someone that just wakes up and throws on whatever. Sorry, let me turn my phone off. Wakes up and just puts on whatever's handy. It mocks people that he's around, but also like to me, he aligns himself with a criminal element. He doesn't align himself with Wall Street guys where he wears a suit. Like, why would he? Like all of his henchmen, they all dress a certain way. I think if you want to ingratiate yourself to henchmen, you dress as they dress. Uh, and I took the liberty uh, uh, of pursuing that thought process of like, what if he looked like the element that is always guarding him? Bikers, gang members. It's the 80s, so it's a very punk culture time too. And so when Aaron goes, well, how about this? And he had just made this entire outfit with like spray paint that you could still smell. Like, I mean, that night he was up and then came in and had just like 5 options. And then he brought out that jacket. And I'm like, oh my God, I hope this fits. Because David's a tall glass of water. He's not, he's, he's pretty tall. And a lot of people were just like, well, why are you wearing skinny jeans? And I'm just like, those are the only jeans we had. Like, I don't think people understand ultra low budget, and I don't think they understand micro budget, and I don't
Yeah.
think they understand no budget. But like, this was just supposed to be something fun, and then
Mm.
I kind of spiraled it upward into something as big as what we could possibly make. Like, I have a Griffin Electric business. I have a a camera. I'll say which kind when they sponsor me, but it says at the end of the movie. So and also I'm not really happy with my camera, so they need to send me a new one. but but yeah, the first time I saw him, I haven't even answered your question
Oh my
yet.
gosh.
first the first time I saw him, I was just like, oh, money, because Tatiana even took like a little bit of blood and splashed it on his cheek, and I was
That's
just
so
like,
cool.
she knows, like she does all of the touches, and like I I hamstrung her with too little of a budget. Yeah, but she made it. She made everything out of every penny. She was only going to bring one assistant, and I said, "Let's bring another." It's just a little piece of the budget. I waited a couple days. I luckily had another side job that came through. Some dumb commercial came through, and that was like, just a little bit more money. So I got her third person, and so now she had Pedro and Cassie, and then and it was the night before that I was like, "Can I have a tongue?"
Oh my gosh. That's crazy. That was the night before.
That was the night before, and
Wow.
I think it was the night before, yeah. And, and it's funny when you send messages like that. Like I'm probably on the watch list now, but like you send a message like that to an FX person, and they're just like, "Oh, you need a tongue?" And they immediately send you photos. I wasn't ready for that. I was just like, yes or no, kind of a diag. And she had like a napkin, and she drew like, do you want it to have a serrated, cut, or like it was ripped out or cut out?
Oh my
And so
gosh.
now I've got these decisions like, cut.
That's
And
hilarious.
it's such a weird experience. Uh, and then so I said, "Oh, what about an eye?" And she's like, "Something like this." And then she sends this gnarly like, photo of this corpse person with an eye dangling out. She goes, "Do you like a lot of nerve?" And I'm just like, "God, jeez, I am in bed right now."
Oh my gosh.
Uh,
That's great.
just, just shocking. It's shocking to someone that's not an FX. Like,
Yeah.
I know Damien, like that's his whole passion,
Mhm.
and I've never met or spoken with him, but like I have a tremendous amount of respect for people that go up the ladder of production into a position where they can finally make what they're passionate about.
Yeah.
Yeah, um, into like a primary uh, facet of the production and the look. I started in writing, comedy writing, and but because I wanted to eat in this town, I started I started doing grip and electric, and so it translated from construction, which was my dad's primary occupation and where I grew up, roofing and general contracting, things like that. And so when I came here, I didn't know what a grip was. I mean,
Mm.
you see it in the credits, but like really, people just don't understand um, the job requirements and things like that. But after I started learning, I was just like, oh well, this translates really well from construction. It's kind of a do it all. It's a fix it all. People bring things up to you that are broken on set and just be like child's, like a children, just be like, my toy broke, and you're just like, hold on, put it together, tape it together, glue it together, or make them a new one and then send them out, back to set. And everyone's like, yay, the thing's fixed.
Oh
Um,
my gosh.
and it's such a fun thing to do, and no day is the same. It's just that it's hard on the body. I don't think people really appreciate sometimes the the danger that this. I'll be preachy for just 1 second. A lot of studios are taking a lot of liberties with, and this is not just like studios doing this. It's just all across production with making their teams work well beyond 12 hours, 14 hours, 16 hours, 18 hours. And it's, I think it's too taxing on the human body and on the mind. A lot of people wreck every year in just this town and just this market in Los Angeles. So, and there, people fall asleep at the wheel. We've had fatalities basically every year. since I've been here and going back probably forever. And I don't think it's, I think that if people really cared about crew, you wouldn't, you would just set the camera down at 12 hours and just be like, go be with your family, go, don't, anyone that works 16 hours, you're not going to stay married. Excuse me. Yeah, you're something's going to give, something's going to suffer, or the risk is if producers want to save money, so they're not putting crew up in hotels that are close by. They're not doing shuttles, anything other than to the parking lot, and then they're just saying, "Oh, okay, we know that we're 45 miles away from where your apartment is, but thanks for your 12, 13, 14 hours of physical labor. So good luck with the drive home." And and then unfortunately, sometimes people wreck um, or even die. So it's sorry, just a tangent that I think I don't even know how I got on that. But it is just one of the things that I'm passionate about. Like now that I'm in the production end of things, and I started on in the G&E realm. I know there are people that start even as a PA and then go into G&E, grip and electric, and then they go into film and other ways. Whatever your path is. I think PAs honestly have the hardest job on set. It's the most thankless job, a production assistant. For those that don't know, it's the go get me my water, go get me my coffee. It's sometimes that people would see PAs in the past, especially. Maybe that is changing, that culture is changing, but I still see it. They're because they're usually young, and so people that have ego problems or just bad attitudes see someone that's young and just talk down to them by nature, which is that's a big risk because that kid's going to be your boss in 6 years when he's a studio head. Like that's a big gamble. That'll be a casting director someday, and you'll still be acting.
Yeah.
And you'll walk in and you'll recognize each other, and the best thing you can do is turn around and walk out, because you just have to treat everyone with some respect. And unfortunately, PAs have really just had not enough love. And it's a great place to start though, because you get the chance to see every single department, sound, onset sound, boom grips, and then judge from there whether or not you want to do one or the other, or you're drawn. A lot of people are just drawn to that camera, that big piece of equipment. Um, and I'm not. I'm drawn to the mechanics of gripping and lighting. I love it. What Tyler Hart and Annie Williams did for me on this. All the love and respect to them because they're they're incredible, and I I had the luxury of being able to tell them. Normally, I work for them, and I actually was able to tell them like I really like this color, and they're like, okay, yeah, like, yeah, I'm like really, and then it's like, dude, you're our boss today. So
Oh my gosh.
there was a lot of shrugging, like, what's this guy's deal? It's like I'm just not used to being able to make a decision and or being asked to make a decision and then have everyone go, oh yeah, that's what we do now. Um, so I mean, that's just a really green director. I mean, last year I directed two projects, and this is one of them. So, yeah, I want to do 200 more. I didn't know after I did the first one whether or not I would like it or hate it, but I know that I'd been on enough mayonnaise commercials, basically, that I was just tired of seeing other people do it. Because you're just over there against your C stand, like blaring and going, "I know I could do it better," and like, but it's like put up or shut up. Yeah,
Mhm.
if you have an opportunity to do it, now you have to do it better, or if you didn't, go sit down. But at least this way, I knew nobody's going to hire me. Walk up to me on the street. You can throw a rock in this town and hit a director and an actor, um, but like no one's going to make an opportunity for me. I have to do that for myself. And the opportunity to work with Tatiana and David um, is rare and very special. So I just had to make as much of that day count as possible. Um, so to answer your question, it was shocking the first time I saw his face. So sorry.
No, that's great. That's great. So I wanted to talk to you about Joel LeBlanc, who plays your Jason Todd in this. He is phenomenal in this role, and I was wondering if you could just talk a little bit about the collaboration process with him when bringing this character to life.
Oh yeah, no, Joel was great. So uh, super positive attitude, and for someone that hasn't directed a lot of stuff, I kind of was really reliant on everybody just kind of being really easygoing, and we have a fun set, which I know is like it shouldn't be a factor because we're all professionals and everything, but it's a lot of time in a very tight space, and everybody has to move very quickly. So if there's levity and stuff on set and good attitudes, positive attitudes, we get a lot more done. We get a lot more coverage. You know, more coverage means better options during the edit. It just means it's a less painful day too. And there was a lot of laughter and joking and stuff on this set because Chris Bond and I we've written a number of comedy features together. We've written some television stuff, pilots and things like that, all spec, you know. But we have fun joking and writing, and so that really kind of translates on the set as well. Um, Joel fit right in and uh, was a lot of fun. He was very professional. He took direction very well, made really good judgments and adjustments on his own, which is great. And but he also wasn't. It was never like the Joel show, you know. Like he never had ego and stuff like that in it. And he did all of his prep leading into this. He took it very seriously, and he's also uh, really big into the lore of it. And Jason Todd is his favorite character. I think you mentioned in your interview that and not a lot of people say that. Like a lot of people, if you're going to pick a Robin, they don't always pick Jason Todd um, because he was very antagonistic and hot headed, and you know, not everybody agreed with that, and seemed to cause as many problems as he solved. And I think maybe that's why so many people, when given the opportunity to decide, live or die, it's only going to cost you 50 cents to cast a vote. That so many people were just like, man, kill him. Uh, and I don't think I think a lot of people probably did that because they never thought for a second that DC would actually do that. Like they would actually follow through with it. And so, you know, I think that when it came down to 200 votes split to kill him, I think maybe they were just like, wow, we're going to really have to do this. Like we have to put it's in print. Like
Yeah.
we're going to have to honor this. And then yeah, they said, hold my beer and clearly wrote that in the late 80s. So, um, I don't know. I like that Joel, I made a huge nerd faux pas, right away in my first draft that I sent him. Um, like I actually, uh, I could be cool and not say that I did, but I don't care. I'm not cool. I'm almost 48 years old. I think I give up my cool card officially at 40. But like the the I had in there Dick Grayson, and that's like ridiculous looking back on it. And I mean, there's been like four of them. So, you know, throw a dart, you'll hit a robin. But, you know, I should at the very least have known, like, okay, if you're going to do this one, which robin was it? It's just hard to remember.
Yeah.
It's 1988 for crying out loud. I was 11. Um, so the moment to uh, came when Joel's like, clearly this guy didn't check or it slid by or whatever. He was very uh, like, yeah, it's interesting that you want Jason to do this. And, and I was like, I didn't even say, oh,
Oops.
yeah, he was very gracious about it. He could have been like, you know, what you didn't do, but he wasn't. He was a very smart actor. He didn't know me. and he wanted the part,
Hmm.
and honestly, he had the best look for it. We looked at, I think, 12 or 15 different Jasons on, or or at the time I thought, Dick Grayson's, on Actors Access, I think, and the looks just weren't right, and like, the builds weren't right. You set the age on there as well as early 20s, and you get a bunch of 40-year-olds that are like, I can be hip and play 20. It's just like, because they want to act and they believe
Yeah.
that their range fits within that. I'm like, yeah, I'll just give myself a backpack and some glasses and I'm totally 21 years old. It's like, no, dude, you're bald. Like, you're 40, you're 49 years old. Like, what do you can't play 20 anymore. It's okay. But and then he sent in this photo, and I think he mentioned it to you, where he's in his cosplay outfit as Robin, and uh, I think Robin slash Red Hood, because it wasn't like the goofy, classic costume. But I was just like, wow, that's it. Like, the build, he's not a bulky guy, and these other guys, a lot of their photos, it's like some actors can't help but live in the gym, and it's like, well, that is a look, but if someone needs a slight build, like, you got to find that actor, and time just wasn't on my side. And the fact that I think his uncle knew one of our producers and was just like, oh, I think my kid's into this comic book, or my nephew's into this comic book stuff. And it was just like, like, give him a shot. And then all of a sudden, one photo comes in, and it's him literally as the character, and I'm just like, okay, well, that's just smart, yeah. Number
Yeah.
one, to
Oh man, that worked
submit,
out perfect.
yeah, to submit a photo where you're already in the costume. So, like, just in case the powers that be don't have any imagination, that they'll be able to uh, look at it and
Yeah.
immediately tell you, like, oh, this is the guy. I mean, look at it, you can see it, and it's amazing. The other thing is, I'd never met Joel. Talked to him on the phone twice, once to interview him, and then called him back a little while later. Uh, my producer, one of my producers, Hunter Williams, and I called him back, and Hunter, knowing uh, Joel, knowing more his uncle than Joel, was like, I absolutely want to bust his balls. Like, I want to do that. Like, I want to tell him sorry. I absolutely wanted to. And I'm just like, do you have any idea? You're an actor. You should know how incredibly disheartening and mean that is. Well, I'm gonna, we'll tell him. I just
Oh
want this
man.
one moment of misery. All right. I'm like, that is so mean. Uh, and I told him no. I don't like. I wouldn't want someone to do that to me. Uh, and so we told him, and he got very excited, which made us feel really good to give. It's so hard to have wins as an actor, and especially in this town, you're just up against numbers.
Yeah.
And he was so gracious and excited, and it was just really thrilling, and touching to have someone, to be able to hear someone have that win. You could hear his voice change, and
Oh.
it was just like, oh, that's just it. It warmed my cold, dead heart, and
Oh. That's great. That's really great though.
and he, yeah, and then on the day, he just brought it, like, just absolutely, the excitement, the he had so many ideas, and I put a lot of constraints on him, and I knew that he read the script, but he loved the script. Some actors would read it and be like, "Boy, I didn't get any lines," and it's like, that's not the assignment on
Yeah.
this. I don't need people to hear you tell us your hero, counter argument to why he needs to be in jail, or it would be more like dead. But what, you Joker, you're a bad guy. We don't need that. Like, we know that argument. No, what we need is Joker's villain speech and the taunting, that I believe he would do. A lot of people were like, he would never play with his food that much. He would just end it. It's not what he did in the comics. And it's like, okay, well, it's a comic. It's four panes within a single page. And what's your passage of time? Is there a clock on the wall behind him? Like, I mean, in your mind, you can draw it out or you can make it concise and read the comic in 10 minutes. But I used to pore over my comics. They were an event to me.
Yeah.
Like I couldn't afford 20 comics. I could afford one comic. And I would go home and just like study these these panes and like, you know, they're the smallest inking uh, of like expression, especially as the years went on and you're out of gold and silver age where they had more colors at, you know, they could emote more, they could be edgier, they could people could die, like there would be bystanders, there would be, you know, casualties and, you know, pain, people would be injured, you would see crippled heroes, and it was just like an event. And I didn't rip through comics I and then put them in a sleeve. I don't think any of my comics would be like 9.1 or whatever. They're not trashed, like they're all in plastic, but they're, you know, they're sacred to me, but like they're also like I would just like delicately, you know, read everything and just like put it to memory and just note the colors and the shading and everything else. And it was such a spectacle and so special that like when someone was just like he would never play with his food, it's like, well, to me, I spent an afternoon looking at that picture. And like that's time. The passage of time only means to that sounds really existential. Time is a construct, you know, like, but it's, yeah, I don't know. I can't listen to these guys, but I do. I'll read them all, you know, I'll torture myself. Uh, but yeah, the uh, Joel, though, was one of the really smart actors that can make a meal out of crumbs and knew that not having lines is not a liability or a deficit to an opportunity. And he 100% was willing to sit there. Remember, he got out of makeup in about an hour and 15, and then went upstairs. And then for the next 10 and a half hours, minus lunch, proceeded to just sit in agony, scream, bleed. Uh, his voice was trash by the end of the day. And he was so happy. It's funny because when someone walks up to you and they're out of makeup and they're like tired, and
Yeah.
you know, we tried to keep them hydrated and everything, but it's like it's two sips of water for every sip of, you know, blood
Oh,
that he was trying to not swallow. But like he was an absolute like professional. Like I know that he's gonna blow up. There's
yeah.
no doubt in my mind. It'll be me asking him for a favor someday. Can you be in my project? And he'll be like, talk to my assistant. Yeah,
Oh,
all right. He won't be. He won't just be. But yeah, I hope that's a predicament he has to have where his time is so spread to where he gets to choose the
yeah.
roles and the people's, you know, or the people that he works with and the projects that he gets. I hope that he gets to be in a position where it's more offers than he can possibly jump on.
Yeah. That would be great.
That's the type of actor I think that he is, and that the types of opportunities that I think he should get. That's me. I'm I'm putting that out into ether. I think a smart director, a smart casting director, a smart agent would be would be would do themselves a disservice by not jumping on Joel as an opportunity to uh, latch onto an opportunity. Yeah, just basically, it's good for everybody. All ships rise. So anyone that wants to represent Joel or you know, put them on their project, they're just going to pay dividend.
Yeah.
That's a very producer thing to say. That kid's worth money, you know. Like, but
No,
no, he
but
is. He's gonna be really special. He is
yeah,
really special, but I think his trajectory is just gonna skyrocket because he's
I
just too
totally
talented.
agree.
He's too
Yeah.
talented
No,
and so
totally.
darn handsome. He's one of those lookers.
No, I think he was totally great in this. And I Yeah, completely agree with everything you just said about the trajectory of his career. And I can't wait to see what he does next because he does so much in this. And I just think people are going to love, to see his career and how it evolves from here. I know a big hope for everyone involved with this project and also for the fans watching it at home is that there's more to come from your version of Joker with David and everything. Have you given any thought to if this continues on and it turns into a series or a feature-length film, what other characters you would like to see this version of Joker interact with?
I would like to see a Harley. I wouldn't make a Harley in the traditional sense, but because I've always seen Joker as a very asexual, um, I mean, or whatever the term would be nowadays. Like, I don't think he would claim any specific. Like, it's one of these things where crazy doesn't make time for romance in my mind, and I know that on some comics he absolutely like it's the closest thing he can fashion towards a romantic relationship, and
Mhm.
then obviously in Suicide Squad with Leto, they really leaned into that mashup, um, and and it was good in very specific ways. But again, they got a very pretty person to play Joker and a very pretty person to play Harley. And I think those conventions are well established. And it's so dumb saying the word reality, but like in in my reality of what people that live that lifestyle of violence and crime,
Mhm.
they wouldn't be um they wouldn't look like that in my head, in my mind. The criminal element is usually like the antithesis of it, of conventional beauty. And so, the yin yang thing of, you've got good, you've got evil, and you've got the the juxtaposition of having these conventionally strong, handsome Superman looking types, and then, on the opposite end, it's we're also going to have strong, handsome villain types. It's like, okay, I mean, you can do that, but like it's not where they're going to hang out. I mean, yeah, Wilson Fisk, nice suit, giant scary guy at the end
Yeah.
of the day. So it's like, I don't know. In my mind, though, I guess I have a brand, or something. Maybe I have a brand, but what I would like to see is a Harley that's as crazy as her actions are,
Uh-huh.
uh, to be represented visually in that same way too. And I think there's some really talented fan art out there already, popping up that, on Instagram and on our Instagram, uh, feed. That's not a plug for Instagram, but like that's the only way I can say, like, if you wanted to go look at the fan art, I try and like put it all on
Yeah.
there. Um, that people are already projecting like what these other characters might look like in that 1980s garb.
Mhm.
Uh, and I think that's really fun. Like, I was so honored. I'm like, wow, I used to draw a lot when I was a kid. I know how much time it takes to do that, and even when you're excited to do just the sketch, some artists can crank it out really fast. We've all seen those guys, but like, these individuals are putting like their hearts into drawing really beautiful, uh, pieces of art because they're inspired by, Joker's Wild, and I'm still processing that. Uh, I've never been in a position to have to, be confronted with someone else having creativity, uh, bloom from something that I've done. It was always the other way around. I used to always draw like Wolverine and, Psylocke and, uh, stuff like that. Teenage boy stuff, obviously, but, yeah, it's so crazy. Like, people are, yeah, it's just it's hard for me to, I probably sound very naive, but like, I'm kind of on a beginning of a path, so I hope that people forgive my new car smell as far as all this goes. But yeah,
No, that must
uh,
be such an incredible feeling. And I'll tell you right now, I really think this is something you're going to it's new to you now, but I think it's something you're going to have to get used to because, as a fan watching it myself, I think you have a lot of talent, and I think what you created is so special. So I'm telling you right now, for years to come, you're going to have a lot more fan art headed your way.
Well, I, thank you. I appreciate that. That's yeah, that means a lot to me,
Oh, well,
sincerely.
happy to say it. I know that we've been talking about the future. This thing has been out for a week now. What would be the best way for fans to help support this and to help get the word out and to help make sure there is a future for this?
The entire point of the project, at least for me, was to elevate and give an opportunity to everybody that was on it. You know, Chris Bond, the cinematographer, is incredibly talented and has a really good eye for composition. And there's a lot of love being given to the look. Like he knew it was a comic book movie. We're going for comic accurate, and he created very stylized, con- comical frame composition to where the colors overlapped, congealed. Like he knew the palette that I wanted, made it happen. Annie Williams and Tyler Hart, Tyler being the lighting technician gaffer. They used mostly tungsten lights. I think there were only like a couple LED options,
Hmm.
but like it was all natural OG tungsten lighting with gels through 90% of this thing. And, on dimmers, manhandled like handled dimmers. Like normally now it's like on a bigger shoot, it's just you've got one on set lighting tech that's got a big board in front of him and he's operating a bunch of wireless bulbs. I'm not going to shout out any specific brands until they send me free lights.
Yep,
Um,
yep.
Aperture, Astera, come on. But yeah, my stuff's so worn out. But yeah, I have some old like 1980s and 70s Mole Richardson tungsten lights, and nothing makes skin more beautiful, especially on a to me tungsten lighting. It reacts with the oils in the skin. It reacts with the makeup better than LED does. It just draws a lot of electricity, but it is the warmest light. Nothing will make the woman's skin look more soft and vibrant than tungsten lighting. So any actress that comes on set and sits down and goes, "How are you going to light me?" "Oh, we're going to use all of these LED lights." "Oh, cool! You're going to make me look like a corpse. Thanks. That'll help put 10 years on me and take 10 years off my career." But a very smart actress will be like, "Well, I appreciate a tungsten key," and while lighting techs are going to be like, "Curses," because now we have to go find one. Um, I really like running into a DP that likes embracing some of the older tech, less of the HMIs and all of that really blue daylight, and they go with a nice tungsten source, and it's a beautiful addition. But this wasn't a shoot about beauty. It was about throwing gel in front of powerful point sources. And that rust coming through the window, that's one of my favorite gel colors. I asked Chris if we could use it. And I had like 2 or 3 sheets of it left on my truck. And they did. Tyler threw it on there. I thought it looked great. Um, Chris Bates is our BTS and stills photographer, Chris ML Bates. I think on Instagram he's CML BATES. Yeah, CML Bates. Really good photographer, and he did me a favor on this and came in and uh, just crushed those still set photos that we started trickling out to see if people would respond well to it and what we were trying to do. And I think David's fans were just like, anything David does, we want to support David.
Yeah.
But then they started seeing the still shots, and then it became something totally different. They're like, okay, well, we like comics. We don't necessarily like everything, but we like comics. And so you had those people, the comic lovers, and you had the David lovers, and you had the art lovers. And it's like one of the conundrums I was faced with was like, he's got a very specific fan base that loves very specific um, type of movie. Like, what are you going to do when you use today's literal king of horror?
Yeah.
You know, if you have him, like, you have to do a nod of some sort. So I like anything that was monochromatic, black or white, like the stocks, the black and white stocks were actually sleeves. I think Aaron Camacho said that they were sleeves from a shirt, and uh, that we bunched up so they looked, they had the black and white stripes, and then on the blindfold was black stars on a white cloth. Um, and that's all like a nod to Damien and David's Art the Clown, and it was just, you got to give people a little fan service, and you're not going to get latitude or leeway if you don't try and acknowledge those that came before. Like, I really love Nicholson's Joker. That's a rictus grin, and people that don't know what a rictus grin is uh, are always wondering why they took Jack's natural, smile shape and then added even more to it. It's like, well, that's just what it is. It's an inflexible, like, rigor on your facial muscles, and it's also characteristic of people that are psychotic. They usually like that bunches together, and it was just a really great choice, I think. And so people that like are hats off, about that in the comments on the movie, they're just like, hey, this is comic accurate. I'm just like, thank you, 1 in 1,000. It's like, okay, I get it, I get the assignment. David and Aaron really wanted, a comic accurate Joker. It just hasn't really been done. And also, it's a comic book. There are no voices, but who has the number one most Joker voice ever is Mark Hamill. But their Cesar Romero's voice was also incredible. And so, what can we do? David has a really exceptional conglomeration of all of the things that came before. And then he also has his own in there, but then he also marches around within it. Like, there's a certain amount of musicality that comes from it, like in the way that he pitches between emotions and flips on a dime and goes the other direction. I think there's a lot of commonality and consistency in how other actors have delivered those moments of insane and then calm and then ooh and then insane, and it's like and I think that David has done a tremendous job of going very quickly on his toes, one to the other to the next, to where it gives Joker something that I don't think a lot of actors before have embraced, as far as mental conditions, which is mania. I think that he has shown that the guy's mind is always moving, and he's so far ahead, only in a clinical sense. Like, he can't help it. Like,
Yeah.
you call it ADHD, whatever that he's just got a little of everything. And when one of the things, like, I mean, literally just, spoilers, I guess, spoilers, hit pause. But if you haven't seen it, but I'm imagining that if people are watching this, they have. They probably, in the time that I've been talking, watched it 8 times. But
Oh my God.
the uh, he immediately, like, caused so much pain, and then he sits down and tells a joke. Like, it's just, he pivots, and David makes a lot of choices with my script that made me look really good. But like, it was weird seeing everything in my head. Like, the first take, I didn't even say cut. I was just sitting there watching it because it's like, he was so good. It was just like watching a show. Like, and David has theatrical training, so he's used to, like, going on, like, oh, we're starting on page one and we're working through the entire thing. Like, that's what we're gonna do. That's what we do. We act. He's a stage actor and has that background. And I didn't have any of this background and history of David, and I've certainly never directed him before that day. Um, and it was awesome how collaborative he was. He'd just throw out ideas and offerings. And like, the screw this thing was when he saw a table full of torture tools, he just went over and played with them naturally. And that was the first joke he made. But then he went back to my material, which didn't include that. And I was like, no, in this take, I like that. Use that. and he did. I think he liked having grace, and he liked having uh, room. And I'm certainly not going to turn down uh, a good idea because it did nothing but add. And that's what he did. It was just add, add, add. It was spectacular in that way. An actor that gets the role, has read the comics, understands all of the lore, understands the types of jokes he would make. Like Joker loves dad jokes. That's just, that's the type of thing. It's silly jokes that only he would laugh at, that everyone else has to pity laugh at if they know what's good for them. And and then that's, and David was just like, yeah, and he steered into it, and I was all about it because it did nothing but give me more opportunities in the edit, and it was consistent too. Because I mean, we're doing 20 to 30 setups, 26 setups, I think, and it's 5 to or 7 page script, I think, and normally in film it's a page a minute, and so it wasn't supposed to be as long as it was, but like in horror, it might as well be a 50-page script for a 2 hour movie because it's all slow creep. It's all description. It's finding the location, which John Helgren was our set designer. And then one night built that whole thing from a blank room, which is incredible. I had another location on this studio picked out, and it was half the size. But I thought, oh, the wall texture looks great. It's cement and brick, and it's got all this low hanging vent that's rusty, and got old mechanical like wheels and pulleys and stuff. Oh yeah, this looks great. And he goes, or we could not do this on the fourth floor and bring all of our equipment up here. I could recreate something like this down there. What do you think? And I was quickly outvoted. And so, but then I come in and I see the set, and I'm just like, all right, John's a professional, does it for a living. I learned something that day. Every day I learned something, and that day I learned that you listen to your professionals. You don't try and explain to them their job. And if you have someone that's experienced in set design and they're calmly telling you, please don't do this,
Yeah.
uh, that you need to listen to them. They're not saying it to be antagonistic. They're saying it because they know, in the nicest way, there are 40 reasons why this won't help you on the day of shooting. And he was right. He was incredibly, like, yeah. And I think the only thing I did right that day is I listened to everyone and pouted on the drive home, and then showed up the next day, and I'm like, wow, sure am glad I made that decision to yeah, not use that room up there.
Oh my gosh. No, but
Especially
I think
because I
that's really good advice to listen to the other people because I think people don't do that enough. You know what I mean? Like they want to do things their way. So I think that what you're saying makes a lot of sense. And it really did show in the work that it was a collaborative process to get this made and just everyone's talents really shined from the costumes and the makeup and the hair and the acting and the set and the direction. Everything just like came together perfectly.
Yeah, no, it was fun. There were a lot of fun moments. I actually recorded the cast and crew because only Tatiana, David, myself, and Chris Bond, and then the editor, obviously, Matt Walker, had watched any iterations of the short as it was being edited. And then I recorded uh, David's reaction video of him seeing one of the earliest cuts just before Christmas. I think it was we shot on the 4th of December, and then I think it was like the 22nd, and we met for lunch, and then I pulled out my laptop and was like, I've got something for you.
So cool.
And he sat there and watched it, and it's kind of adorable. A lot of people have probably already seen it. I chopped out some of the parts because it literally is someone for 13 and a half
Yeah,
minutes, because
the reaction for 13 minutes. Oh
watching
my
it, yeah,
gosh.
watching that, and he was just very like, but he didn't go like, just, I didn't cut out anything like that. I don't mind
Yeah.
uploading the whole thing, but I just feel like it might be a little boring for people to sit there and watch a man study his performance. It's not as exciting as watching someone watch it for the first time who has no idea what the script is, or what the assignment's going to be.
Yeah.
And but he he enjoyed it, which was a relief. Um, he didn't get a chance to see any of the dailies. There was one day, there was no like, hey, let's all sit down now and watch an hour and 40 minutes of everything that we did take
Yeah.
after take. He just kind of trusted all of us to do what we do, and which is another big lesson.
Yeah.
Once you're done working, let everyone else take over. And again, the guy's a professional. Like if he doesn't get hired to play the Joker, it's not going to upset just me. Like, I'm sorry. I mean, it ends up in retrospect, Hugh Jackman was like one of the most perfect Wolverines we could have ever imagined having. But he had never read a Wolverine comic until the day of. Like he'd been cast, and he was very open about this in previous interviews. Like, oh, I better go study up. And he's like, oh, these are pretty good.
Yeah.
But like, and me as a fanboy at the time was like, hey, of course you should be out there reading this stuff. This is important.
Oh my gosh. Well, fingers crossed that this incredible project leads to something down the line. And I just know, whatever you guys do next, I am on board and I can't wait to see what becomes of this. But Aaron, I cannot thank you enough for taking time out of your day to be here and to give me so much of your time and all this information. It's such a cool interview to get to learn all the behind the scenes. You would never know all these things that go into creating something like this. So I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you, Taylor. A lot of people don't know about what happens behind the camera, and if they do, it's only their favorite department that interests them the most. And but there's a lot of other people doing a lot of other things, and yeah, it's my first AD, Jennifer. It's the least fun job, but she had my back, and she didn't keep us from having too much fun. Like first AD has to let you have a little bit of fun to keep spirits high, but at the same time, TikTok, like we got a lot of work to do, guys. Let's go ahead and roll.
Oh my
And
gosh.
yeah, she's phenomenal, and I just wanted to give a little shout out to her prior. So
Oh,
thank you,
that's great.
Taylor.
Well, thank you. I'll make sure to put links in the description of this video to the Joker's Wild Instagram account so people can keep up with, behind the scenes footage that you're putting out, and also a link in the description of this video to the actual Joker's Wild short for people who haven't had a chance to watch it or to
Yeah,
watch it again. So thank you so
awesome,
much, Aaron, and I greatly appreciate this opportunity and congratulations on everything. And I'll be here to support whatever you do next.
wicked. Thank you, Taylor. I appreciate
Thank
it.
you. Bye.
Bye.